Okay. Okay, so this is the first session of a few that we are planning to deliver for you over the next couple of terms, and of course as the relationship continues. So what we're going to be doing today is having a conversation around getting your students onboarded, because we appreciate that that is obviously something that takes time, but also once you've done that, where do you start? If you've had the opportunity to explore the platform already, you'll know there's quite a lot of content on there. So I'm here to help you think about the ways that you can actually begin to use Start straight away, and then future sessions will go into further detail, and that indeed is the what's next. It's talking about the upcoming training sessions and how we plan to continue to support you. So what you'll be pleased to know, this is not just going to be a PowerPoint presentation. We are going to go off into the platform in a second. And what we'll do is I will showcase very quickly where the regional content is for South Yorkshire, if you haven't already seen it. And then we will go off into the behind the scenes, which is their subscription services. As we go, please feel free to drop any questions into the chat and I will answer them as I can. But you will also have, the ability to email me with any questions that you have after the session as well. Lovely. Welcome to Hannah and welcome to Sam, who's just joined us as well. So don't worry, you haven't missed anything. We're just getting started, basically. Excuse the pun. So what I'm going to do is going to stop sharing my screen for a second and we're going to jump off into Start and begin having a look at the content, first of all, that is there for South Yorkshire, but then more importantly, looking at the behind the scenes and making the most of it. Now, the best way to think about today and my role in today is that I am a bit like a bus tour guide. So imagine you're on one of those tours that you get in a country that's lovely and sunny somewhere abroad. And my role here is to showcase and to point out some really important features, some features that will be really useful to you. But of course, the best thing to do is to go off, find a cafe down one of the back streets and sit and explore it in your own time. So that would be my suggestion to you is after this, obviously I will point out some key elements, but please do take the opportunity to go off and explore it for yourselves, because of course, you know your students and your careers program best. But as mentioned, I'm always happy to provide some advice and support if needed. Now, for those of you that haven't had an opportunity to explore the platform yourselves, this is the landing page for students. And I just want to draw your attention to a couple of things. First things first, the menu bar that the students see is different to the menu bar that you will see. And you will see that later on, but that you can still access everything the students can access. It's just in a slightly different way displayed. Now, also, this banner here, okay, so the students can get to, there's lots of places where they can navigate and have a look and explore. But I just want to draw your attention to this link to a nice transition activity, ideal for your Year 7 students. And this is an activity that will change over the course of the academic year. So, for example, if we're doing sessions or activities around National Careers Week, for example, and things like that, you will see that activity change. So do keep an eye because it's an additional resource to support you. Now, when it comes to content for South Yorkshire, the majority of the personalised content or the localised content is found here in the Explore section. And you can see there that straight away, there's the opportunity for students to look at what's out there. Now, I can click into Explore Your Area and straight away it's going to give me the opportunities to explore the different areas that are around. I'm going to pick one at random, so please don't be upset if I didn't choose your area, but just to give you an example of the content that you've got here. So this is very much, presenting your labour market information, so your Gatsby Benchmark 2, bringing the world of work into context for a young person, getting them to think about what's on their doorstep. And of course, by having the surrounding areas as well, you've also got those travel to work and learn areas for students to explore. Students can have a look into different sectors, and if I was to click into one of these, it would actually take me into, again, more regional content for the students to explore. And then down here, they can also have a look at some different employers, some education and training options. This for me is a really nice graphic to get students to think about different qualifications and what they want to aspire to. They've got the links off to the education pathways as well. So whether you are a school with sixth form or not, they can obviously have a look at the different opportunities there. And then down here, you've got a live Indeed feed. Now, again, this is obviously great for the students to actually have a look if they're looking for part-time jobs, but also fantastic for you as a teaching tool to get students thinking about the skills required and what they might need to put on a CV if that's something that you are incorporating into your careers program. So just wanted to show you that as kind of a regional or an area page. And then if I click into something like logistics, this takes me into a wider industries in South Yorkshire page, which again, you can access straight away from the menu itself. And it gets students again to think about, you know, who's employed in that area? Is there a demand for me? How might I get there? Some featured employers as well for them to consider, especially for some that are not always obvious as well. And then likewise down here again, they can look at live vacancies, so either for themselves or for you to use as a teaching tool. Okay. Now, there's also the access to national versions in there, so please don't feel that it is just South Yorkshire. The students can also look beyond, you know, in circumstances where they might be moving or going out of the area. And then we've also got some exciting elements in our develop section, which we'll be going into detail on when we do some further follow-up sessions. So what I'm about to do is I'm going to log in now as a teacher. So you can see there straight away that my menu bar has changed. And when I log in as a teacher, I land on this page here. So this is my teacher view. As I mentioned, you can still see everything that the students can see down here, with the addition of an activities tab that you might not have noticed before. And that's because this account has access to the START framework, which we're going to talk about a little later. One of my first top tips for you, if you will, and there will be several of these as we go across the training, is once you get into the platform, it's very easy to obviously get into teacher mode. And of course, that's the thing that we're covering today. But that being said, my other piece of suggestion to you is to put yourself in the mind of a year 8, a year 10, a year 12, and actually go through the platform and think about the content that is most relevant to you. Which content is that student going to be looking for? What content are you planning to signpost them to? And of course, that will help when it comes to planning. But of course, as well, I'm going to explain how the START framework will support that as well. But it will help you to get to know the platform a little better if you go at it with one particular mindset to begin with. Now, within Teacher View, just to draw your attention to a few things. So first of all, you've got a help and support tab here. And within this, you've got some promotional materials, some help videos, user guides, which I'm going to refer to a little bit later on. So there's some content in there for you to use. And not only that, as we scroll down, you've also got our 3 packages, which of course we're going to speak about. And then down here, there's some quick links as well. So if you want to very quickly do certain things, then you absolutely can. Now, the 2 packages that we are going to focus on today is user management and resources and reporting. Now, we are going to do a specific session on student interactions and making the most of that in terms of recording data, using it alongside Compass Plus, and also as well, of course, about, you know, how you can use it beyond sort of your careers program. If you are looking to try and get up and running with this before then, just to draw your attention, we do have a recorded webinar which you can catch up with, but you've also got a user guide there, which is, you know, very straightforward. The program itself, or the platform, itself, is very straightforward, so you can use this package nice and easily. So please do, you know, feel that you can go off and use it. Of course, I would just recommend using the user guide to help you. But like I said, it is fairly self-explanatory in that respect. So, user management. Can I just ask, and obviously, you know, if you can use your microphone, great, but if not, if you can use the chat, how many of you have had an opportunity to perhaps attempt onboarding just out of interest? Or, you know, is it something that that September has been a bit of a crazy busy one? And obviously now, you know, now is the time to kind of start planning just out of interest. Has anyone had an opportunity?
We haven't yet, Jenna, at Wingfield, but as you know, we're going through the GDPR.
Yes, of course. No worries, thank you. Lovely. Okay, so one person, so we've got a data person who's done it. Wonderful. Okay, so it might be, Caroline, then obviously that some of this is repetition, but it's also quite useful to have the kind of, the information in mind, because of course this is going to be an ongoing process that you'll hopefully do once at the beginning of the year, but it might also be that you need to revisit it at times if you've got any additions to make. So user management. Now, when you first get onto the platform, so, when we give you your details, what you'll actually be sent is something called a quick start guide. So I'll show you what that looks like. And what we've tried to do is make this process as simple as possible. So we send you this, which means that you can watch a very, very quick video, which is our head of tech sharing details about the program, about the actual package and its functionality. We give you the link to the CSV file that you need to complete. We also give you the user guide to help you complete it. And for those of you that we talked about top tips earlier, one of my biggest top tips is to read the user guide. That might seem like a really obvious thing, but trust me when I say a lot of people are not doing it. So that's why I'm reiterating it. And then once you've done that, you submit your file and check your results. Okay, so we've given you a nice, simple step-by-step guide. Now, when you're in the actual package itself, it looks a little different, but all of the information is still there. So you obviously can read a little bit about what it is and why it's important. We're going to click into here in a minute, which is the actual sort of process, the actual features. But you can see there that you've got a user guide, help videos and FAQs as well, should you need them. Now, I am going to click into the user guide, and I'll warn you, it is, it's quite intensive, but that being said, there's a reason for that, because of course, following this will mean that you don't experience any technical difficulties. Now, I'm going to scroll down, and obviously you can see there to read, so that I can show you an example of what this CSV file looks like for those of you that haven't had the opportunity to see it. Now you can see there the different types of information that we need. It's fairly straightforward information. There is a reason that we suggest getting someone like a data manager or a network manager to support you with this, because it's very easy to pull the information from SIMS or whatever management system you are using. We're not integrated with them yet, but that's perhaps something that we hope to see in the future. And also as well, with all the data questions that we get asked, it's sometimes just easier to put the data in yourself. Now, that being said, about using information that comes from your management systems, it is really important that you put the data into this spreadsheet in the manner that we request it. Okay, it is a very fussy document. It needs the information in the way that it is expecting it. And the majority of errors that come up are where those things have been, where where there are spelling mistakes, or perhaps someone's just put in data and not thought about it. So for example, year group here, it just needs to be a number, not a year group. So it doesn't say year 10, it's just numbers, and that sometimes kicks it out. It wants you to put in a postcode for everybody, otherwise it gets a bit confused. Likewise, when it comes to things like unique identifiers and things like that, we explain exactly which information you need in the user guide, and it's my suggestion that you do, or whoever it is who is supporting you with this, reads this before they then move on. Okay, so, or before they begin starting that process. We have schools where they've done this very, very quick and easy. We've had other schools where it's taken a lot longer, and a lot of it is purely to do with silly little tiny errors that actually, could have been prevented if the information had been put in the right format to begin with. Okay, so, and also as you scroll down, just so you are aware, it talks a little bit about the import options, which we're going to discuss in a moment. And then it also talks to you about why we ask for certain information. Now, I appreciate, obviously, some of you have got data needs that you are looking to obviously get answered. And we're happy to share our policies in that respect. Obviously, we do protect data in every way that we possibly can. But just to show you, for those of you that are needing to explain to perhaps data colleagues why we use certain information, that information is all there to share onwards. Okay. Now, going into the actual user management function, which is here on the left-hand side, I'll show you what we've got. So again, you've got your user management step-by-step guide. Here is your download template. Okay, now what you do is once you've completed it, you simply upload it. Now, my suggestion to you is this. Firstly, don't attempt to put every single student on one spreadsheet for two different reasons. One is because obviously that is a lot of data to have to upload in one go, and it will take a little longer. But also, if you do need to go back in and amend any of those students, perhaps, you know, year 7s to come and go, or perhaps, you know, you've got other changes that you need to make, a student moves or anything like that. Last thing you want to do is search through a very, very long spreadsheet to find one individual student when perhaps you could just log into the year 7 one and find the information that you need. Now, once you have uploaded those spreadsheets, okay, what will happen is you will upload it and it will process it. Now, if there are any problems, it will tell you exactly what they are, okay, and it will ask you to go in and amend it. Now, once you've done it and everything is fine, or it perhaps has, you know, remedied anything that it can do or needs to do, it will bring you this result file. So this is the final document. This is your data that your accounts have been created under. All right. Now, if you are to make any changes in the future, this is the file that you would use. Okay, so for example, if you are looking to add custom groups to your students, which we'll talk about in a second, or if you're looking to change the role of one of your members of staff, it's using the results file that you would do that. So you would download it and re-upload it. Now, I've actually almost jumped ahead actually one step, so let me just rewind back a moment. So imagine that you are doing this for the first time. Imagine you are uploading your year 7s, for example. And what you've done is you've got the spreadsheet. You may have also decided to put them in custom groups, and that is part of the spreadsheet itself. Now, you can group the students in whatever way you want. You can also create as many groups as you like. So it could be that you group them in tutor group. It could be that you group them by attribute. So, for example, special educational needs, free school meals, pupil premium, or perhaps students that are working with a particular learning support assistant. There are multiple different ways that you can do that. Now, once you've done that, you simply can upload your file. You can choose start to send welcome emails as well, so that you don't have to go around and manually give the students their details. Now, there's the welcome email goes to students and it doesn't have a password in it. So a lot of schools ask me this. Well, we've sent student details and they've not been told what their passwords are. Now, this will depend on how you filled in your data sheet. Now, if you left the password field blank, what Start does is allocates a password for the student. But it does it as a temporary measure, because what we are expecting students to then do is go in and almost use the forgot password option and reset it to something that they know, so that they have got a memorable password. The other way to do it is that you can manually add in the existing passwords that students have, perhaps those that are attributed to their existing login credentials. And of course, the students can then just be told to log in with the ones that they already know. For those of you that are using single sign-on, whether that's Microsoft or Google, we are looking to have this in place, hopefully within the next term or so, or perhaps a little bit beyond. But of course, then students would be able to log in with their existing credentials. All right, so that content is there for them to be able to do that. What you can then also do, and this goes back to me mentioning the results file here, is that if you need to make any changes or change any roles, now the roles element refers to teachers. And I'm actually just going to click back into my user guide just to show you this and where this features. It's just scrolling down again. Okay, so you can see here I've mentioned groups, and you can see some examples of writing different groups here. Okay, this role refers to the staff member. So first of all, you need to add the staff information in there, because obviously that differentiates the login, the landing page that those teachers will get when they log in. The other thing that you can also add is a salutation as well. And the reason that we ask you for that is that when, or if, I suppose, you present Start front of class, rather than it appearing with your name in the top left-hand corner, which you'll see in a moment when we go back to Start, it will come up with a salutation and your surname. So mine, for example, would be Ms. Nichols. Okay, so that's why you can put that in for staff. Now, that simply gives staff access to the behind the scenes. What it doesn't do is give them access to the additional packages. Now, my recommendation to you is, this is just my personal opinion, is that actually it's good for staff to have access to both reporting and interactions. Okay, so the ability to track student progress and also the ability to used to also record any kind of student interactions that have anything to do with careers, or perhaps even beyond if you're looking at using it for personal development or anything like that. Some schools choose not to, some schools choose to keep it nice and simple, but that is very much your call. And for me, if you're looking at embedding START and supporting it kind of moving forwards, it is really good for teachers to have it, because of course you want it to become part of a narrative of everyone getting very used to using START as a recording tool. Okay, so that's something that you can do later on down the line. Please don't feel you need to delay uploading your users because you want to put that content in. What you can see here, and this is where I mentioned the results file as well, if you need to make any changes, you can simply bring that in, download it, add in the roles that you need, and then just make sure that you click to preserve existing groups or existing roles. Okay. At the moment, START is, so I've just had a question for Vanessa, which actually is relevant for everybody. START is funded for the academic year at the moment, but there are very positive conversations taking place about being extended for a further academic year as well. Okay, so at the moment, at least 2 years, but hopefully, of course, longer, you know, as you can imagine. Okay. So, right, hopefully that has answered some, well, I suppose answered questions you didn't necessarily know you had about user management. Does anyone have any particular questions before I move on to the next side of things? Drop it in the chat or feel free to jump on and ask me. No worries. Like I said, you've got my details, so if you do need to get hold of me, please do let me know. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have. All right. Now, what we're going to do next is talk about resources and reporting. So we mentioned earlier, obviously there is a lot of content on the platform, which is absolutely incredible. And we're hoping that there is, you know, something for everybody in terms of supporting the careers program, but also for young people making their choices and being able to move forward. But wouldn't it be great if you had a set of activities that was designed to structure a student's journey through the platform? Well, voila, conveniently so, we have one, and it's called the START framework. Now, it sits within our resources and reporting package. The resource element refers to the START framework, the reporting to the associated reports, and also some additional reports that we give you as well. Now, you will be able to read this in your own time, but just to very quickly gloss over around what the actual framework is so that you're aware. Now, as I mentioned, it's a series of activities designed to structure a student's journey through the platform and to make sure that they find the right information at the right time. Now, what you will find in these activities is several components from across different parts of the platform. So that's that element of getting the information that they need. There'll be links off to some of the areas as well, so you know that they found the content that they need. But the ultimate aim is that you as teachers can look at the different activities on offer, choose the ones that you think fit your program. Now, I appreciate, of course, that some of you will be delivering you know, very regular career sessions or have a career slot. Some of you may well be fighting out for careers alongside PSHE, and some of you might be reliant on drop-down days as well. So the idea of this framework is that it can be delivered in whatever way you need it to be. Okay, so you can pull the one activity that you might do occasionally. You can give them a whole bank of activities that students complete in tutor time. It might be that you've got some of them being set as additional homework and things like that, or perhaps you've really had the opportunity to embed it in the curriculum and have therefore been able to pull those activities in that way. So it very much depends on your setting and the time and capacity available to you. But the ultimate outcomes are, however it is that you decide to deliver these activities, if you can fit them into your time, is that not only can you find their progress through this activity, we will be also providing snapshots. So there'll be information you can use from these activities to be able to tailor that sort of offline careers element for your young people. And the students themselves will be populating their profile as they go. So as I mentioned, there will be components that fit into their profile that if they populate them in an activity, it will populate it in their START profile as well. Now, we've got 7 themes within our framework. So we go from career basics, self-awareness, skills, moments of choice, exploring the labour market, work experience, and applying for jobs. And then within each of those, we've done it up into levels. Now, we do offer resource all the way through from Key Stage 2 to 3, all the way up to Key Stage 5. And students can access all of these activities, which means that if you have an advanced student who is perhaps maybe a little advanced and is looking to explore further, you can absolutely showcase them the expert activities. Likewise, if you've got perhaps students where there is some learning needs or anything like that and they need to drop down a stage, then they can absolutely do that as well. These are simply recommendations, but of course you will know your students best and know how and when to introduce certain activities. What we've also done is aligned the activities to the Gatsby benchmarks and the new CDI framework as well. And I'll show you where you can see that information a little bit later. Okay, now, as I said, you'll be able to read through this in your own time, so please don't worry about missing this part, because what I want to show you is how it works in practice. So you can see here, we've got some quick links that you'll be able to look at. So we're going to talk about the reports just a little bit later, and they're further down the page. I mentioned about activities mapped to the Gatsby benchmarks. Now, we do have an overall table that outlines our activities and how they link, but you can also click here and we do give you a nice overview of which activities map to which benchmark. So if that is how you plan your program, then you can use that resource to do that. But as I mentioned, also going back, if I click into this list here, new activities and development, it gives you a list of all the activities that we have got planned. These activities where it indicates September 21 have all gone live on the platform. We just need to update this document, but it gives you a really nice overview of those activities that are available, those which are coming soon, and likewise their benchmarks and how they map to the new CDI framework. Okay, so you can use that information whatever way suits you best. All right. What we've also got, and obviously we're going to talk about activities in a moment and the different ways that you can use them, but just so that you know what I'm referring to, we have provided you with some suggested delivery plans. So as I just said there, you know, all of you are going to use this entirely differently. It depends on the careers program that you have and the time available. But what we have given you is the ability to look at how some of these activities might fit into a term, imagining that you had all the time in the world to deliver careers. Some of these are live, some of them are coming soon, but this is just a general kind of overview of activities that you might like to feature at certain points in your term, perhaps in line with certain things. And then last but not least, we've also given you some drop-down day suggestions as well. So, for example, are you doing an aspiration one? Are you doing one based on work preparation or enterprise? But also as well, are you doing ones around health and well-being, and where actually you could put some activities in there as well? And of course, you know, we talk about careers in the curriculum as well. There's plenty of others that would fit nicely into other themed events as well. So please do, if you are looking for some inspiration, then, you know, perhaps this is your first port of call, should you so wish. So let's talk about the activities themselves. Now, there are a few, and obviously we're not going to have an opportunity to go through all of these in detail, but if you do have a particular gap in mind or something that you're looking to supplement, please do drop it in the chat, and obviously I can showcase some examples for you, but also, of course, I can give you some examples of where these can be used as well. Now, just to show you how these activities are presented for you as a teacher, so you can click into all of these as they feature here. So there's a long old list of activities to look at. But I just want to show you and draw your attention to what it looks like for a student. So I'm going to click into student view and I'm going to click into activities. And it is, again, very simple for the students to find the information that they need. So that is there for you to be able to do. So, for example, looking at career basics, if I click onto that, it will bring me the activities that are aligned with that. And likewise as well, if I want to look for anything on work experience, I can see activities available there to be able to do. So the students will very easily be able to find any activities that you're sourcing for them or that you're directing them to. But also each activity has its own link as well. So once the student is logged in, you can very easily share that link. I had a school I spoke to earlier today actually who asked about links with things like Show My Homework. Now, we don't integrate with those at the moment. It's something that we might see in the future, but of course if you have a web address, then it's very easy for you to send those details to students for them to access if they need to. Okay, so that's what the student content looks like. Now, you've probably caught a glimpse of some of those activities there in terms of kind of different ones that are available for the students to actually explore. So let's have a look at some of those in a bit more detail and think about, you know, occurrences or situations where you might want to use some of these. So let's go, for example, to moments of choice. Now, this would be an example of an activity that, of course, comes at a very specific time for you in terms of kind of, you know, when you're going to be delivering it. Oops, sorry, can you still see that screen? There you go. So obviously that will come in at quite a particular time. So it might be that obviously you decide that you want to deliver these certain activities at certain points. We have made them quite meaty activities, these particular ones, okay? And obviously you can see there that there are several different kind of stages for them to look at. And when it comes to post-18, some of these will be more relevant to others. Now, I'm going to use post-16 as an example. So you can see there you've got, you know, what are your post-16 choices? What are things you could consider when choosing your subjects? And then obviously you can actually put in about making your choice. Now, an example of where this could fit in as part of your as part of your careers program is actually getting students in year 11 to complete those first 2 activities prior to having a career guidance interview. So if I click into your next move, for example, and this is an example of an advanced activity. So of course, there is more content in here than you would see in some of the beginner or intermediate activities. You'll be pleased to know, though, we always include video content because it doesn't seem to matter what age a student is. They all love a bit of video. So there's some information there that you can share. We get students to have a think about qualifications. Again, this is a table that features on the platform. So we've just pulled it into this activity to ensure that students see it. So you can see there that they can quite easily see where they're headed and what kind of equivalent routes they can work through. We give them some insight into different types of learning, and there's also some data capture for them in terms of their level of qualifications and where they think they're going to go. Now, this is then an example of how they link off to the platform. So for example, if I click into here, it will take me off to the different establishments, so the students can actually read a bit more about them and start to understand it. Now, this information they can absolutely get to from the Explore section, but of course, this just means that they have found the content that they need, and it opens in a new tab so they don't actually navigate away from the activity. Now, here is an example of information that is part of the platform. You'd find this in what we call the post-16 diagnostic, which comes under the post-16 education choices kind of section. But what we've done is pulled it into here so that the students can really start thinking about what they're looking for. But these particular components we have actually included in your reports so that you can actually pull this information. So the example I've just given you about having students complete this before they move into, or before they have their post-16 guidance interview, means that they are already starting to refine their choices and their options, so that rather than just arriving with that careers advisor and sitting in front of them and not knowing where to start that conversation, they've immediately got something that they can work with. And anywhere that you see these 3 dots on the platform is an indication of where the students themselves can give some additional thought and content. And we're going to talk about using those 3 dots in other areas of the platform in an upcoming training session. But I do just want to showcase it to you because I think it's a really useful tool for students to be getting used to using. And you can see there as well, so what type of establishment, what type of qualification. There's other options that they can fill in, so things like deadlines, about reminding them that colleges won't wait forever, that they do need to make some applications where they can. This checklist, again, is another one that we pull out for you, so that, you know, if you've got students who are looking for specific things, you can, of course, pull in that content, have a look at that as well. And then again, some more sort of note-taking. And then down the bottom here, students indicate whether they completed the activity, yes or no. And regardless of whether they actually, you know, have said, yes, they understand, or no, they don't, indicating that they've done the activity in some way is what clicks it through for you. And then if you click here to complete the activity, it actually does take you to the student facing, just so you know, because of course that's where the students will ultimately end up. Just so you know, that is an example of how the activities are delivered. Now, you can imagine that is something that is quite intensive. You know, it might be something that you can't necessarily achieve in a 15-minute session, tutor session, for example, but it is an incredible wealth of information for the students to be able to complete and to bring to whoever they're having those interviews with. Likewise, there's lots of other options and things you can do to start off students in, you know, the younger years, so key stage 3, but also around particular themes. And just scrolling down here to show you the different types of ones that you've got things like, what is stereotyping? So yes, it's in the context of careers, but we know that stereotyping features in lots of other subject areas as well, particularly PSHE. So again, it might be a good conversation to look at including that activity in that curriculum. Likewise, down here around self-awareness, getting students to think about a personal development plan, which of course, again, has a careers element, but is also about students being able to move forward. Skills, again, fantastic to be looking at in the context of, you know, everyday life. So for example, if I click into this one breaks it down into basic skills. So, you know, there's some videos, it talks about the difference between technical, universal and basic skills. There's some nice videos, gets the students to think about them in context of the things that they've done. Very short, very sweet, nice and easy activities to get the students to do. All right, so that's just one example there. I did mention that some of these activities have got worksheets. And I think actually the stereotyping one is one from my remembering. Yes, it is. So you can see here, and this is actually an example of how you can potentially look to deliver this front of class, because I appreciate that sometimes is also the issue, is actually the access to computers. This particular worksheet gets students to think about different jobs and what they perceive them to be, and they get to draw or they can type or whatever it is that you want them to do with it. You get them to, you know, think about what they've assumed, and there's a nice video there from Steph Houghton in terms of kind of women playing football. It then gets students to think about jobs that they're actually interested in, and this is something they can actually indicate. And then going down here, they revisit the riddle. I won't spoil it for you if you haven't read it already, so you can find that in your own time. And then also as well, this component, which will be coming onto the profile very soon, gets them to think about jobs. So immediately they're beginning to, you know, kind of get into that habit of exploring jobs or jobs they've come across. They can add those into their profile and then click to complete that activity again. Okay, so reality is, you know, I could sit here and go through each of these with you, but you are going to know your students and your program. So another kind of suggestion and top tip is to take the opportunity to have a look through these different activities and see which of those you think would be the most useful to you. Now, of course, the activities wouldn't be any good if you weren't able to see what it is that the students have actually done as a part of it. So those are the ability to access the activities. And then down here, you've got the associated reports. Now, we're going to talk about the framework report in just a moment. So that's being able to see the content and information that students have put into those activities. But you've also got some additional activities here, additional reports here, I should say. So the Skills Builder report, for those of you that aren't familiar, is around the 8 universal skills. So what the students can do is they can rate those under the develop section in the platform. And again, I'd recommend going off and having a look at it. Skills Builder themselves have got some brilliant resources, so definitely worth having a look at. And we've also got the Digital Skills Report, which is another framework. It's Department for Education. And as the name suggests, it is digital skills, but for me, they also very much edge onto life skills as well, and kind of transactions in real life. So again, I'd absolutely recommend having a look. You'll find it under the develop section. Now, we've also got another really exciting new set of activities that actually aren't part of the framework. They do sit on the main part of the platform. We call them sector insights, so they sit within the industry pages. And so those of you that know will have seen that our industry pages are quite broad. So for example, construction, logistics, you know, they're very overreaching, but actually the sector insights or the career aspirations are designed to be short and sweet activities, specifically focusing on different areas within those industries. So for example, within construction, you might be looking at scaffolding, bricklaying, plastering, and actually students being able to tell you whether that is something that they'd like to do, and you of course being able to take that information to tailor the delivery that you have. So looking at who you're inviting in for your assemblies, looking at students that are wanting to visit local colleges to perhaps pursue those courses and things like that. So lots of options for you to use there. Vanessa, I've just seen your question. I'm going to answer that for everybody in a moment, if that's all right. Just wanted to let you know I'd seen it. So start progress reports. You'll be pleased to know there are videos in here so you can revisit them and watch, but we've tried to keep it really simple. Now you can see here that you can search for your activities either by your benchmark, if that's the way you've planned, by your themes or by your levels. And down here are the snapshot reports I mentioned. And what they will be is, for example, if you know that your year 11 students have done several different activities, for example, you can see there that there was 3 post-16 activities, the snapshot reports will pull in all the data from those post-16 activities. So it's all in one place. Again, ideal for perhaps the parents' evening or when you're having a career guidance interview with them, and they'll be coming soon. Now, I'm going to show you how these reports work. Again, we've made them nice and easy for you to read and understand. And again, the video there to revisit this should you so wish. Now I'm going to scroll down because I know that we looked at your next move activity. So I'm just going to click into that to look at the report. So you've got an overview again of which activity, which framework it aligned with. And then here is an example of where those teaching groups kick in that we talked about earlier. Okay, so what we can do is we can filter the activity. Now you'll know that chances are actually year 11 to have done it, but you'll also be able to choose particular teaching groups attributed to those students. And you can see there's some examples of what we've done, but you can completely customize them yourselves to suit whatever your arrangement is in school. And that would allow you the ability to feature, to filter those activities. Now, if you then click filter, first of all, you get a superficial sort of numerical amount of data. Now, you know, you can imagine if you set the whole of year 11 to do this and only 3 of them have done it, then you know you've got some chasing to do. And the export is the student level content. So you'll be able to see exactly which students have completed the activity. And that is all the information that it will show you for now. However, what we've then got is this additional detail. So I told you that we've got the checklist and those preferences, and this is that additional data. And this is where the numbers will actually be really useful for you, because of course, it's great to see where students are looking at going. You know, if you're a school with a sixth form, are they looking at staying with you or moving on further? But also then the export will actually tell you what those students have said specifically. And of course, again, you can use that information to inform those conversations that you're having with them. Okay, so they're all exportable. We are looking at a dynamic way to view that information, but for the moment, everything that you need is in those exports. Okay, and you can obviously filter that to get the information that you need. Now, I appreciate, obviously, that's quite a lot of information to share with you. Like I said, it is recorded, so please do let me know if you want me to send that on to you to obviously refer to later on. Now, what I'm just going to do is go back to the presentation that I was on before, just to revisit some of those things that we've just said. So, get back into here. So, just to go over what we've actually talked about and what we've said so far. Now, talked about user management, okay, those top tips. First things first, read the user guide, or get whoever is your named onboarding manager to read the user guide. Upload your year groups and staff separately, and that's to help you and prevent any headaches for you in the future. And then if you do need to make any amendments, you do it to the results file, which is the one down the left-hand side. And if you have any technical problems or you encounter any issues, please don't suffer in silence. You can contact our customer support team on support@u-explore.com. Now, Vanessa's just asked a really good question in the chat there about whether, you know, teachers can explore it before you're onboarding your students. Absolutely. So the idea of user management and the reason that we've refined this is that you don't need to put the students on until you're ready to do so. Okay. In fact, quite a lot of schools are just putting their staff on and getting them familiar with the platform, or perhaps just launching it with a single group of students. Perhaps that's year 11 because of the timing and the commitments that obviously you have there, or perhaps it's starting it with year 7, whatever suits you best. So please do go on and do that. And also, if you are still waiting to be onboarded, because I appreciate some of you are, the actual link itself, so the actual platform, so southyorkshire.startprofile.com, you can access the student-facing content, the majority of it, without creating an account. So as long as you're not writing anything in, or obviously like clicking in through, like is into actual kind of like writing or content, you can actually explore all of it. And I'll show you that in a minute before we finish. Okay, so please do take the opportunity to go off and have a play with the platform, which you can actually do before you've even created an account. So yeah, absolutely. If that, hopefully that answers your question, Vanessa, there. Okay, now what we've also of course talked about is reporting and resources. So as we've said, it's about structuring students' journey through the platform, ensuring they find the right information at the right time. You've got CDI and Gatsby mapping there depending on how you manage your program. We've aimed for it to be flexible and time-saving, and we're always happy to take feedback and kind of, you know, good news stories as well. So please do share those, and we're giving you the associated reporting that goes with it as well. Now, last but not least, I appreciate we may have some people on the call who have perhaps used on other online careers platforms before, who are perhaps looking at migrating or still considering, or who are perhaps looking to obviously align their usage of one platform with another and pulling different features from both. So just wanted to showcase and highlight some of the specific things that Start has that can support you, where perhaps there might be others if you're looking to gap fill. One of those is this South Yorkshire content, so the local labour market information, which we touched on briefly at the beginning. So being able to pull that information and really show students what's on their doorstep. The START framework is the second, so that bank of resources to be able to use to support your students and to structure their journey. And then last but not least is the START profile itself, which actually continues with students all the way through school and beyond. So you can actually take it into adulthood, which not all systems allow you to do, particularly Unifrog is an example of that. Okay, so you can use START beyond school. And that also means as well that students can use START outside of school. So it is entirely mobile and tablet optimized. So the students can also fill things in on the weekend. Again, it's fantastic to make that part of a narrative to get them to be using the platform interactively and getting them to really think about putting things onto their locker or into their locker. And we'll be talking about that in more detail at sessions in the future as well, and really being able to get students motivated and engaged to use START to record that information. So thank you, first of all, for your afternoon and for spending time with me. I do appreciate having you here. So just to reiterate, really, next steps for you, go off and explore the platform. So southyorkshire.startprofile.com. You can explore nearly everything you can, everything that's on the platform. Obviously, if it prompts you sometimes to say you need to log in, but that's more so only if the data is going to be saved. But please do go off and have a play, get to know the platform in a bit more detail. Secondly, get your students onboarded when you're ready. But of course, in the meantime, you can onboard your staff or just perhaps have a play around for yourself whilst you decide what is the process for yourself. And then also look out for more training. So we are here to support you. As I mentioned, you can absolutely get in touch with me with any questions that you have. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you at some sessions in the future. Thank you very, very much for today. And I will stick around for a few minutes if any of you have got any questions. Thank you.